It's the time of the season, and there's a reason we're going to be watching these movies over spooky season. Hey, what's up, couch potatoes and horror masters? Mike here today to talk. I guess you say this is the first official video on Mike's media reviews. It's going to be hard for me not to say Mike's book reviews every time, but this is going to be me talking about something that we do at the house every year. Now, on my book channel, we have something called Spooky Season. Well, at home, we have something called Fright Fest, which is where we talk about all of the horror movies that we're going to watch this year. Now, the list has gotten a little longer since we started to incorporate the kids into it, so we've started to actually start a little earlier, a little bit, pretty much in the last couple weeks of September or so. We're going to talk about the movies that we picked out this year, and just, figure we can compare lists down in the comments below. So let's go ahead and talk about what the adults only are going to be watching here. Now, we got this broken into three sections here. Adults only, with my oldest kid, and then as a family, which can include my youngest kid, if he is so interested. So beginning with the adults here, the only John Carpenter movie my wife has yet to see is John Carpenter's The Fog. Now, if you guys don't know what this is about, a glowing mist brings deadly ghosts ashore. Now, I think that when you talk about John Carpenter movies, this feels like the one that no one ever really talks about. This, or maybe Prince of Darkness. Everything else has pretty much become like cult status at this point. But The Fog, I remember this, the actual creatures in this scared the hell out of me as a kid. So it'll be the first time I've watched it since I was probably 10 or so. So I'll be interested to see how I feel about it. But my wife has surprisingly liked all the John Carpenter movies. They Live, by the way, still her favorite one. Next up, guys, I've never seen this one, a complete horror classic, Rosemary's Baby from 1968, guys. Satanic cult wants your baby. That's really all I know about it. I don't know the twist ending or any of that stuff. I've been told it is a slow burn, and I don't know why I've never actually done it. It seems like it's on my list every year, and we just never actually did it. So this year we did like our power rankings, and we've got it kind of listed to where we'll make sure we watch this one early, because there's several on this list that we passed over for a couple years now. Next up is The Changeling from 1980. Widow moves to a haunted house. Another one I've never seen. A good friend of mine who is one of those types that like nothing can scare him. He's Mr. Macho. He said this was the only movie he could think of that really gave him the willies. So I'm interested to see. I love a good haunted house story. I mean, who doesn't if they're done right? But I think about back then they had this way of capturing just the whole idea of a haunted house and making it really, really creepy with tricks of the camera and just, props and stuff. So I'm curious to see how that goes along with anything. If you guys know anything about this one, hey, sure, drop in the comments and let me know, because it seems like not many people talk about this. The only thing I know about it is the basketball or the baseball or whatever it is going down the steps. It seems like it gets spoofed in other movies. The big one, guys, 1973, The Exorcist. Obviously, I've seen this. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. My wife's never seen the movie. We are both going to be reading the book in October. So once we are both done with that, we're going to go ahead and watch the movie. I think it's awesome. If you don't know anything about The Exorcist, I don't know what to tell you. I feel like it's such a pop culture thing at this point. You know all the famous scenes, the head turning, the pea soup, the crucifix, all those things. Still one of the scariest movies ever made. And I'm anxious to see how she will feel about it, because the things that I expect to scare her don't. And things that do scare her, I'm like, really? That's what really... And the thing about this, guys, is the reason we started doing this is because my wife doesn't like horror movies. The only time she will watch horror movies is in October, so we try to cram them all in that month. So that's why we haven't actually watched this one. This one we've already watched. Came out just this year, Black Phone. That is an adaptation of a Joe Hill short story. As you don't know, that is the son of Stephen King, obviously Joe Hill. But we've already watched it, liked it quite a bit. Very much a thriller. But I think that Ethan Hawke is solid in anything, even in a movie like this where he's wearing a mask the whole time. The guy's just a solid actor. But it has some parts that are pretty messed up. I think for me there's one part of it, and I'll probably do a quick little 5-minute review of it, because I don't want to kind of get into the details there. But it's if you're very, very easily bothered by... wait for that review. I can't say. Next up, guys, The Apostle, 2018. This is a Netflix exclusive. It's like an early 1900s religious cult on an island. That's really all I can really tell. It looks like it's got a lot more body horror than I expected into it. But mixed reviews on this one. Some people say it's absolutely terrible. Other people say it was actually really underrated. So that's one that's been on our list a couple years now. And it kept falling off, and we never really got to it. So we'll make sure that we get to it this year. Next up, this one from 2014. It's called The Last Shift. Neither one of us had heard of this until this year. It came recommended by a friend of mine who said he really did like it. It's like a graveyard shift at a police station with a rookie cop. And let's just say that a lot of paranormal things start happening. So it looks to me, judging from the trailer, a little bit of like agoraphobia, but I mean, I think who wouldn't have it in that situation? This is the one from the trailer alone that's got my wife the most freaked out. So that she picked this one like kind of last in our lineup of the order that we're going to watch these movies. But I'm very curious about it because I feel like I haven't actually heard about it. But now that I've actually started talking about it, lots of people are like, oh yeah, that was a great one. So it feels like maybe it's one of those kind of modern horror classics that just kind of got swept under the rug. I don't know. So hey, I'm excited to find out what happens here. 2008, The Strangers. Now, this is another one I think that is always on our list, and it seems like we've never really gotten to it. I always just thought, hey, cool, creepy people in a mask, but a home invasion with creepy masks is a lot more scary. I think about that movie that Mike Flanagan did. Was it called Hush? Where you have the guy in the mask that's stalking the woman who is deaf. It made me always kind of think of that. But after I saw Hush, I was like, well, I can't do better than that. But now I realized, you know what? There's lots of movies with a guy in a scary mask that I do like. It's not like there's more than room for one movie with people in scary masks. I think I watched around the same time there was a movie called You're Next, which everybody carried on about, and then I watched it and thought it was not that great. So I think that's why The Strangers kind of just like fell and kept falling. But again, this is one that's we made sure that we put it up high this year to make sure that we do watch it because it's been on the list several times. The Gift from 2015. Apparently, creepy childhood friends are still creepy, much later in life. So my wife loves Jason Bateman. I love Joel Edgerton. So it seems like, hey, cool, this one makes a lot of sense. It looks like a little more psychological than horror. But you know what? I think there's always room for some thrillers on a list like this. You know, you can't always be blood and guts all the time. And jump scares. So, again, another one that it seems like we always kind of talk about it, but we haven't really ever done it. Same with the next one, guys. Creep, 2014. I think both of us just got so tired of the found footage genre. And this one just looks like a little different. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's the main actor. I can't think of his name right now, but I first saw him on The League on FX, and he's very, very funny. So seeing him in this creepy role, I don't know how I feel about it. But I've always said I feel like there's a fine line between horror and comedy, because comedy is all about the timing, and you got that down. I think that's what makes horror great, is if you get that timing right. So I can see that transition being made really easily. One of my top picks this year, American Werewolf in London from 1981, guys. Probably the greatest werewolf movie ever made. I don't know. I have to revisit this and The Howling because I haven't watched either of them since I was younger. But in my memory, look, I love Stephen King, but Silver Bullet's pretty rough. It really, really is. So I can't put it up there with this. I mean, American Werewolf in London, John Landis. I mean, this is, again, like comedic director moving into horror here. And I think from what I can remember, it does have some laughs and some things that even Pet Sematary kind of took influence from. So I'm excited to revisit it and see how it holds up. And my wife is interested in seeing it for the first time. Then we get to a couple that we got time. These are the ones that got a little asterisk by it, just depending on how fast because like I said, we've started adding the kids, and that's kind of started to drag things down a little bit with our schedule. The Ruins from 2008. I was actually interested in this book, but didn't get to it this year. Maybe it'll be on my list next year. But if we get to the movie this year, who knows how they work. But apparently it's like Mayan ruins and body horror. It's a good combination for me. I think that was around the time when people were still talking about 2012. The Mayans predicted 2012, So I think it might have actually been playing with that. I'm not really sure what it is, but I do know that the book comes highly recommended to me. So I said, hey, cool, they got the movie on one of these streaming services we got. So we'll see. And then one that just kind of always gets moved down our list. We've never done it because the trailer freaked my wife out. And this is Lights Out from 2016. I didn't think it looked that freaky at all. But really, it's just or if you're afraid of the dark kind of person, and my wife is not a fan of the dark. Let's put it that way. So the trailer is very good, and it's always kind of made me curious about it. But that's one that she always, every year, she's like, let's put that one as an asterisk if we have time. And I think that's just because she's making an excuse not to watch it. But that's all that we have for the adults. As far as with my oldest son, he's 10, so I'm not going to get some judgmental comments down below, and that's fine. That's fine. I think with us is when it comes to horror, I feel like violence and bad language. He's fine. It's not going to bother him. I'm not the stuff, the sex stuff. That's where I'm like, all right, I don't want to make him uncomfortable. I don't want to make us uncomfortable. So if it's got a lot of that, we're not really going to do it. And I know that sounds kind of weird because the first one here, you're going to be like, Mike. So I think with this is, it's up to you. It's how your kid is, how it works for your kid. Each year we've kind of pushed the envelope a little more and more. Like we did Sixth Sense with him last year. He did really, really well with it. Hell, he's watched it, the TV one, not the newer one that came out a couple years ago, and he loved it. So we feel like it's okay to push the boundaries a little bit. His number one request this year was Pet Sematary. He's enamored with why I love Stephen King so much. And when I just, I would kind of give him like the one sentence sell job when he'd be like, oh, what's this one about? I told him about, oh, it's like your pets die and you take them to a cemetery and you bury them and they come back and, well, they may not be, the same as they were before. And he just became completely enamored with that idea because, the dog that we had when he was born died at a young age and he still talks about that dog. So I think that's why it got his attention, but I don't think he's expecting what he's going to get with that movie. But that has been his number one request, is pretty much the movie that I think that's going to freak him out. But he demanded it. That's why we're going to be following it up with something funny. And something funny is Young Frankenstein from 1974. I think it's arguably Mel Brooks' best movie. That's a tough conversation to have because I love Blazing Saddles. I love Spaceballs. I love a lot of his History of the World Part 1. I could do a Mel Brooks video easily, guys. And we talk about the guys whose movies couldn't be made today. Hell, I'm surprised they were made back then, honestly, with how controversial that they were. But yeah, I think Young Frankenstein is just great. And he watched a trailer and he was like, hey, it's Willy Wonka. So, hey, we've got that going for us. Right? Halloween, 1978. This is also probably his top request. He wanted to do it last year. We just ran out of time and it didn't happen. And then I was like, okay, well, who cares if it's like, November 3rd now? Do you still want to watch it? He was like, nah, we'll just save it for next year. So he's all about the Halloween spirit, I think. So that's why we're going to go ahead and do that one. Like The Exorcist, if you don't know anything about Halloween, I don't know why you'd be watching this video. But, with Halloween, is it Halloween Ends coming out this year? I figured, hey, why not? We'd go back to the roots and watch how it all began with one of the greatest slasher films ever made. This one might be pushing the boundaries a little bit because I said violence doesn't bother him. He's very much a sci-fi guy or science guy. In that he's like, there's a rational explanation for everything. And whenever he sees stuff like that, he's like, it's just makeup and acting. It's just a story. It's not real. So he's very headstrong in that way. It's kind of annoying sometimes, honestly. But we're going to do Saw. And that's 2004 Saw. I think he's ready for it. My wife's still kind of apprehensive about it. I think it's because he's so smart that he figures this stuff out. And I want to actually see if he figures out the whole big mystery of that movie. I want to see if he can figure that out. Because I showed him The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing. Yes, I showed my, at the time, 9-year-old The Thing. And he was bringing up theories I had never even thought about before. And I've seen that movie about 400 times. One of my favorite movies ever. It's my favorite horror movie of all time. So I'm interested to see how he feels about that. And we'll see. We'll see. So if you guys are right now, it's like, all right, Mike, I'm calling CPS on you. I can understand. The Faculty from 1998. Again, since he did like The Thing. I think The Faculty is very much almost like if you took Invasion of the Body Snatchers and The Thing and mashed it into a high school drama. That's kind of what it was. I think it'll be good for him because he's at that age where he's in 5th grade where he's starting to feel like, all my teachers are just evil. They all hate me. And I think that movie kind of plays into that. Plus, hey, it's got Frodo Baggins in it, so he'll be right at home. And lastly, guys, this is a If We Have Time one. Of all the trailers show, this is the one he seems least interested in. I think an interview with a vampire, because he is getting more interested in vampires. I think that movie having Claudia, the young vampire in it, might actually be something that he finds rather interesting. Plus, we're watching the Mission Impossible movies right now, and he's just eating up Tom Cruise movies. So I think that would be a perfect one to show him. But that's all I've got for the movies with the oldest. Got a couple of family movies here. These ones are going to be much more tame, obviously, you guys, because my youngest is 7. He's on the spectrum, so he gets scared really easily. So we'll make sure that we really, really ease him into this kind of stuff. We already watched Casper from 1995, and I thought that one was perfect because when he watched Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters 1984, he got sad because he wanted the ghost to win. So we figured that movie, hey, that'll be good because, he wanted the ghosts to win in Ghostbusters. That makes a lot of sense. And plus, That was way back when, and I was the same age. None of this, oh, you're being creepy, Mike, at the same age as she was, where I had a huge crush on Christina Ricci at the time. So it was good memories for me, obviously. The movie actually has a lot of heart. I was surprised. I thought it was going to be really, really hokey, and it is, some of those antics sometimes where it feels almost like that Flintstones movie where it would kind of blend cartoons and live action together. But it's a great family movie, guys, as is obviously The Nightmare Before Christmas. Now, this is a Halloween through Christmas tradition. We watch this probably 4 or 5 times every year, starting with Halloween and ending with Christmas, because I think it is that rare movie that you can do pretty much at the beginning of October all the way through New Year, because it's just so great, and we pretty much can recite that entire soundtrack as a family at this point. Beetlejuice, 1989, nice fucking model, right? I think besides that one phrase right there, I don't think there's anything that's really would be bad for my youngest, but I know that there is some things that might be a little spooky, so that one we're going to kind of play it by ear and just kind of see how he's reacting. Maybe he can sit there with, like, my youngest used to sit there with my hand, or my oldest with my hand like this, and put my hand over his eyes when he needed to. Maybe I'll try that with him. But I think Beetlejuice is a great introduction and getting that first step into past just kiddie, Halloween movies, and maybe a little bit more adult stuff, because I think that movies, people don't really think about it. They think of Beetlejuice as being a family movie, but there are some pretty creepy things in that movie, and I love it. And I was watching it at his age, but like I said, he's younger, he's on the spectrum, he does get scared a little easier, so we'll play that as it goes. And then lastly, guys, from 1991, The Addams Family, because the reason this one came up is because apparently they have some song at his school that is done to the Addams Family song, so he's all the time going, no. So I think that'd be perfect. Let's show him the Addams Family, because we grew up with it, my parents grew up with it, and it's an awesome movie. It really, really is. And they've got that new Netflix series coming out by Tim Burton on Wednesday Addams. And again, as a Christina Ricci fan growing up, it's like, all right, those are tough shoes, tough pigtails to fill. But from the trailer, Jenny Ortega, is that her name? She looks really, really great as Wednesday. So I'm actually quite interested in that as well. And then, guys, just pretty much as we have time, we're going to litter in Midnight Club by Mike Flanagan, because my wife and I are huge Mike Flanagan fans. Yes, both of us love everything that Mike Flanagan's ever done. In fact, I'm thinking a next video I might do, actually, to kind of keep in that spooky season Fright Fest kind of theme, is I'm thinking about ranking the Mike Flanagan movies and TV series leading up to Midnight Club. I think that'd be kind of fun. But I'm up for all kinds of new ideas for this new channel, so you guys let me know if that would be something that you would be interested in. I don't know if any of you even watching this or care about what I'm going to watch for Halloween, but it's just always something fun that we do around the house, and I feel like it's a good conversation starter. What do you guys got anything planned for spooky season? So if you do have anything you're planning on watching in October, or any kind of new horror movies, old horror movies, or any that you'd really recommend, why don't you go ahead and drop them below. We're obviously a little full right now, but you know what, we're already thinking about movies to put on the list for next year, so it's never too soon. So drop down below, guys, and I will talk to you there.